was a kid, all I had was a dream. More money, more problems. When I get it, I'ma pile it up. Now I'm dope on the bread.
What's going on, guys? Welcome back to another episode of Net Fishing Channel TV. Today I'm going to be making a couple of videos, and today I'm going to start off with the new series that I'm going to be starting called Fishing Stories. As everyone knows, fishermen are known to have very exaggerated, interesting stories. I would know, I have plenty. My grandfather has plenty. He's fished his whole life, and he's got some crazy stories. And, you know, I always think they're really important to, remember, who we are and, where we started and, where we've come. And, I think it's really important to, remember those stories and share those stories because, it makes us who we are. So, I'm going to start off today with probably something that's not as interesting, but something that's important to me, and that would be my fishing license. As you guys know, I got really big into fishing this year. I'd fished in years past, but no year has ever been this monumental to me. I caught some really big fish this year. Maybe not so big to certain standards, not the California, 13, 14 pound fish that they catch out there on those giant swim baits. But for my area, they're pretty big fish. My area is not really known for big fish. We have a lot of ponds. We don't have a lot of big lakes. And those big lakes we do have are very high pressured, and the fish are extremely hard to get because they're extremely deep. So this is super important to me. I remember I got it right, actually I believe it was the last day of school last year, and I picked up some new baits because the year before this one, my friend had taken me fishing a couple times, and I'd been fishing since I was little, but I never got like really big into it. And yeah, I learned some tricks. I learned some of the gear to use, and I started off on a little octopus Gamakatsu hook and a pink Gary Yamamoto Senko. That was our setup. I mean, we had those little split shot pinch weights. So, very simple setup, not advanced by any means. Very unsophisticated kind of setup. And this year, I decided to buy my own tackle box, a really big one. I did some work for my neighbor over the summer, and I got a humongous check, and I went and I bought myself some serious fishing gear, because I only had one pole up until this year, and a very rinky-dink kind of tackle box that it just wasn't doing the job anymore. It was falling apart. And I went out and I bought myself a nice tackle box. I bought myself the Shakespeare GX2, and it all skyrocketed from there. I started buying more and more gear. I started fishing more and more. I skipped out on my junior prom to go fishing. It was super warm that day, and I actually caught pretty much like the first bigger fish. Not that big considering what I've caught now, but it was a 14-inch largemouth on a very simple setup. The worm, the split shot weight. And, I was by myself, so I was super proud. So naturally, I was super excited about that. And then, I kind of got tired of that same pond because I could just catch, like I said, just 12 inches, just one after the other. And I was like, maybe I should try bigger lake because, bigger lake might hold bigger fish. So I ended up trying a local lake reservoir kind of thing, and I found this spot, and something about this spot just told me just to keep coming back. I was like, this spot looks amazing. It had rocks, it had mud, it had drop-offs, it had big just pillars of just like weeds. And when I say pillar, I mean it was, in six foot of water, I'd say. And it was just a thick, this big of just weeds. And I was fishing this one day. I'd say it was up, upwards of 90 maybe. It was a really hot day. I thought for certain I wasn't going to get a fish. I was wearing camo that day. I was absolutely dying because it was so hot. And I pulled out this monster, as shown right here. I was so excited. I casted out, and I was reeling, and it was like the perfect cast. Like, I literally placed it right where I wanted it to go, and it was right next to that pillar. And I knew, which I wasn't very experienced and wasn't very knowledgeable in fishing at this time, but I knew it was hot, and I knew the fish would not be out in the open. Or if they were in the open, they were going to be super deep, and I didn't have the gear to go super deep that day. So I cast it out near that pillar, knowing that the fish, like me, would rather be in the shade and cool. And I cast it, and I started reeling, and I just felt this huge tension on my line, and I was like, crap, I hooked a rock. Because I had already done that a couple times that day. I had broken off a couple times on some rocks, and you know when you hook a rock. So I was getting a little frustrated at this point, and I just yanked back, and out of the water came this enormous bass. I was totally astonished. My little brother was there. I was freaking out. I was like, Grayson, you gotta come here. Like, I got this huge fish on. And I hadn't seen it yet. I only saw its mouth come out of the water when I yanked back. But I knew just by the mouth it was going to be a big fish. And I started reeling, and then I just saw this huge wake just come across the water. And I was like, boy, this is a big fish. I got it to the shoreline, and I absolutely geeked. The mouth on this fish was pretty darn huge, as shown right here. It was a pretty nice fish. I was so excited to catch that fish. I mean, you know, we had people fishing across the way, because this is like a spot where you have like a couple different coves you can fish. And the people next to me, they were like peeking around the corner to see, and you know, I held up the fish, and I was like, yeah! You know, I was so excited, and you know, they all just shook their heads and just went back to fishing, because I had them beat. I could tell you, they didn't catch a single fish that day. But man, I was so excited. That was such an important moment to me, and that was really the moment when I knew that I was absolutely hooked. The big fish that I hooked got me hooked. I was so excited that day to get that fish. And as you can see, it's not that big of a fish. It was 20 inches. And usually like a fish that length is usually really fat. It really wasn't. It was kind of a skinny fish. I've caught fish that were 6 inches shorter and probably about a pound more. They're just fat, healthy fish. He was kind of a skinny kind of guy. But then again, it was post-spawn, so that could be why. You know, maybe it was a female, maybe it wasn't a guy. You know, maybe it was a female just emptied out a huge load of eggs, and you know, they tend to be not as fat that time of year. But regardless, I was super excited to get that fish, guys, and I had got multiple fish this year that are just truly massive. And this has been really the workhorse of my year. This is a power bait ringtail worm, and this is an electric grape, and this was the bait that actually caught me that 20-inch bass. This is actually the exact one. I mean, you can see it's kind of torn, and it's got the top bit off because the bigger presentation was not working that day. And sure enough, so I really wasn't planning on doing 2 stories. I was kind of planning on this being the intro, but we can just say this will be 2 stories in one. So that's going to give you a taste of what this series is going to be all about. I'm going to do a couple more another day. But today we'll call it quits. I wasn't planning on covering 2 stories at once today. I've got plenty more stories, guys, but I don't want to make this video super long because I can go on for hours about stories. So I'm going to make this kind of a series, me going through more stories, more of my adventures, maybe tell a couple stories of my grandfather's because he's got some great stories. So if you guys like this video, please leave that in the comment box, your thoughts, any other suggestions that I could be doing to make these videos better. But I am going to be doing this series, and I'm super stoked to start this series. So thank you guys so much for watching. Thank you for joining me. And catch you next time on the next episode of Netfish and Chill TV. See ya.
I once was a kid, all I had was a dream. More money, more problems. When I get it, I'ma pile it up. Now I'm dope on the bread we can toast. So fresh how we flow, everybody get